Welcome everyone to today's session on the 2021 data collection process. This session is part of our employer education program, which is a key component to managing risk of the plan and is tied to the Employer Attestation of Compliance initiative. We will be providing a brief overview of the DCT tool and highlighting the changes that have been made this year. We scheduled this session for an hour, but anticipate it will only last about 20 minutes. This leaves lots of time for questions. Today's session is a refresher session geared towards those who already have a good understanding of the DCT process. If you require more information than we're providing today, you can register and attend tomorrow's full training session. Trina Willert, a pension analyst from our Employer Services team, and Sean McFarland, a finance administrator with our finance team, will be presenting today. Trina will be walking us through the DCT process, and Sean will be reviewing the contribution reconciliation process. I will now turn it over to Trina.
Thank you, Sandy. Here is the timeline for the DCT. The training is today and tomorrow, and the DCT tool will be available on Friday, January 21st. The submission of the DCT data is due to be submitted to CAT by March 7, 2022. Meeting this deadline is important as it impacts the annual statement delivery, especially for members with multiple employer participation. This slide provides highlights of the DCT changes that we have made. Some of these changes have been made based on comments and suggestions from employers. On the earnings and contribution file and the year-to-date file, we've updated the naming convention for the predefined column names for employer regular and employer pregnancy contributions to include DB+. If your spreadsheets have any header columns, you may want to update them so it's easier to map during the import process. We added a new report to export data. The new report is called Member Data, Expected Amounts, and Difference. It displays members' data that you reported, the expected values, and the difference. We also added an all-member data report under Export Data. It is the same report that you will find under Member Data, View, Edit Data, but we've improved the formatting to make it more user-friendly. This slide provides highlights of some additional DCT changes. We added a new Authorized Statutory Leave Status, STL, for you to report statutory leaves other than pregnancy parental leaves. We've updated the gray bar in the member details screen. It now only shows the member's employee number, name, and date of birth. In the export data, the file name for members with NC statuses has been updated to members with NC status and a last day worked. As a reminder, this report only applies to college sector employers. We've provided you with the changes. Now we're going to go through an overview of the DCT process, which has not changed from the prior year. As previously mentioned, this is a very high-level overview. We will not be providing a demonstration of the DCT today. If you want to watch a demonstration, we suggest that you register for the full session tomorrow. To start the process, CAT releases the DCT data. Begin your review by exporting the data and comparing to your records. Next, import the appropriate files. If you did not provide in your data, you will need to import the files in the following order: the status update file, earnings and contributions file, the member information and year-end updates file, the retroactive payments file, and the last day worked file. After importing all the files, review, investigate, and correct any import errors and warnings. Once the warnings have been reviewed and the import errors corrected, run validations and fix data validation errors. The DCT guide and DCT submission checklist are great resources. The DCT guide will be available on January 21st under the Help dropdown. The guide provides a detailed process overview, instructions on how to navigate the DCT, explanations of the warnings and errors, as well as the corrective actions required and examples of common scenarios. The DCT submission checklist is available on our CAT website under Employer Education Guide, Data Reporting. As always, you can contact your employer pension analyst with any questions. All existing users can use the same password as last year, which is the same password that is linked to your SDoc account. Once logged into the DCT, the site will default to the home screen. You can see that the system looks the same as you're accustomed to seeing in previous years. This is where CAT will communicate any upcoming deadlines and DCT news. The DCT is due on March 7, 2022. However, if you finish early, submit as soon as you're finished. When you select a member, the member details will appear. As mentioned before, the gray bar now displays employee name, number, and date of birth. This is an example of a DB Prime member record. This is an example of a DB Plus member record. The Summary tab will display the reported data values, calculated data values, and differences between them. The Retroactive Pays tab displays the allocation of any retroactive earnings made in the reporting year. The retroactive earnings record will be created when the prior year retroactive payment data file is uploaded. This tab is only applicable for DB Prime members, as any retroactive amounts paid to a DB Plus member should be included as part of the current year eligible earnings under regular earnings and reported in the year the payment was made. If a member under the DB Prime plan design has taken any partial day leaves during the year, it can be reported on the Partial Day Leaves tab. This does not apply to DB Plus members. This is a manual process as we do not have a load file for these scenarios. As the partial leaves are entered, the expected service will be recalculated. To add a leave, click on the plus button to add a new row, then select the date the member was on leave and enter the service associated with that leave. For any partial days entered, the service showing in the status and payroll data section will need to be adjusted. You can enter as many partial day leaves as are applicable. The Validation Result tab displays all the warnings and errors associated with the member. The Timeline tab is a visual of member status changes that have occurred throughout the plan year, January 1 to December 31. The NC Status tab will apply to our college sector employers only. If a DB Plus member was non-contributing for the full plan year, then a last day worked is needed. The date must be prior to January 1st of the DCT year. On the next 3 slides, we've listed a few reminders to watch for when going through the DCT. Send missed enrollments, change forms, and benefit applications via PAL to ensure prompt processing. Review tolerances to determine if a revised termination, retirement, or death form is necessary. Change of information forms are not required for members who change employee group throughout the year. Update the employee group with a January 1st effective date under status and payroll data. Check the import error report for any rejected members. If you cannot find a member with a changed SIN, search the old SIN before adding it again to the DCT. If you're making changes to the original data on DCT, make a note under Comments in the Summary tab. Add 2021 retroactive payments for retirements and terminations. Review the DCT guide for reporting requirements for importing pregnancy, parental data, and reduced workload statuses. Provide contribution worksheets as requested, and reconcile the data before submitting your DCT. These slides are available on the CAT website under the Employer tab within the Employer Education Guide. They can be referenced at any time.
So this concludes the overview. Now I will pass it over to Sean to review the contribution reconciliation process.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to review the finance refresher, and this is the contribution reconciliation section. So the next slide is basically letting you know that the reconciliation process does begin each year with the DCT being released to employers by the Employer Services team. On March 31st this year, 2 Excel workbooks showing all of your contributions remitted for both the CAT pension plan and the CAT RCA, if applicable, will be delivered to you via email. These 2 workbooks will contain a summary of your CAT 2021 contributions and a summary of the RCA 2021 contributions. Please review these 2 spreadsheets in detail and verify the reported figures to ensure that what was remitted to the CAT pension plan and the CAT RCA was what is showing on the spreadsheets. So the first document you'll see here is an example of the CAT summary of the 2021 pension contributions. This spreadsheet lists the aggregate remittance figures for each month of 2021 with totals on the right-hand side and at the bottom of the page. So please note the individual lines on this report lists the amounts of monthly pregnancy parental payroll deduction remittances. The next slide has a sample of the CAT RCA contribution spreadsheet. So here's an example of the CAT RCA summary form. Similarly, here are the figures that should have been verified against your remittance records. The spreadsheet, for the most part, looks the same as last year. Please note that the RCA employer fee paid line that shows you the amount towards the RCA fee invoices throughout 2021. In summary, the key verification items would be to confirm that cash sent by you, the employer, agrees with the CAT pension plan's records. If there are reporting errors on the side of CAT, please reach out to CAT Finance. If you find payroll-related errors on the side of you, the employer, please hold on to them when the time comes to report them through the DCT. If discrepancies are apparent, please reach out with your concerns. Otherwise, no confirmation is required if the data agrees with your records. Note the deadline for reporting any discrepancies is April 15th, 2022. If no discrepancies are reported, we will consider these reports as approved. Following employer approval of the 2 worksheets, which are the CAT RPP summary and the CAT RCA summary, the final versions are forwarded by finance to the pension analysts, who will then prepare the schedule adjustments and the summary data report. Finance will then use these reports to prepare the annual statement of contributions. Here's an example of the CAT pension plan annual statement of contributions. The CAT RCA statement of contributions, for the most part, looks very similar. This report has not changed from last year. The annual statement of contributions pulls all the information together in one place. The first line shows the subtotal of regular and pregnancy parental payroll deduction contributions from the original master employer DCT file submission. The second line reconciles this figure to the final figures of what should have been remitted as reported on the summary DCT report. This is then compared to the actual cash received below, with the difference formulating the outstanding balance due to or from the CAT pension plan. Here's an example of the CAT RCA annual statement of contributions. The first line shows the subtotal of regular RCA contributions from the original master employer DCT file submission. The second line reconciles this figure to the final figure of what should have been remitted to the RCA as reported on the summary DCT report. This is then compared to the actual cash received below, with the differences formulating the outstanding balance due to or from the CAT RCA. Note that for the 2021 reconciliation, the employer column factors in the CAT RCA fee invoiced in the calculation. If there is a balance owing to the CAT RCA or RPP, please remit it directly to CIBC Mellon. If you are sending payment by EFT, please send payment to CIBC Mellon in your regular fashion. At the same time that you're submitting your payment, you should also send the invoice to CIBC Mellon and CAT Finance via email. The email information is listed on this slide. If you're sending payment by check, please send the check along with the invoice to CIBC Mellon in your regular fashion. The address information is shown on the slide. In the case where there is a balance due to the employer, please look at the member column, employer column, and total column in the annual statements to determine the amount available as a credit. Please claim the credit against your next monthly remittance by showing a credit on the CAT RPP and RCA contribution remittance summary form, the 34A form, under credits-employers. Note that your monthly contribution remittance amount should remain unaffected. Here you can see an example of such a credit on the contribution remittance summary form 34A. Please remember to retrieve the relevant contribution remittance form from our website at the time when you prepare each remittance. This will ensure that the most current version of the remittance form is being used with each remittance. Here's an example of an employer reporting an underpayment on the contribution remittance summary form 34A. Please remember to retrieve the relevant contribution remittance form from our website. So this concludes the finance portion of today's webinar. Please email finance if you have any questions, and we've provided the email address of the finance team on this slide.
So this concludes our presentation for today. We really hope that it has been helpful. We ask that you provide your employer pension analyst with a list of the people who attended today's session so that we can track this information on your behalf. Again, this information will be provided back to you quarterly and again at the end of the year as part of the attestation process. When you leave today's session, you'll have an opportunity to complete a brief survey. We would appreciate you taking the time to complete the survey, as this will help us in making these sessions more valuable to you. Thanks again to everyone who attended today's session. Have a great day.